interesting actually kung paano to ihulmahin din, particularly ng Office of the Ombudsman. Dahil kung maalala natin, they gave several pronouncements, I think several weeks ago, that yung warrant of arrest at saka yung mga kaso ay isasampa dito kay Senator Joel Villanueva, Senator Jesus Cordero. I think they gave only 2 weeks during that time. So it will be interesting right now kung ito bang mga kaso na to ay itutuloy pa despite and in spite of the fact na umalib na nga sila sa bagong mayorya.
How can I be the mastermind? How can I be the mastermind? How can I be the mastermind?
How can I be the mastermind?
This is far from the image we used to see. This is an image that doesn't jive with the real Martin Romualdez, who is addicted to power.
The House is not one person. It is a collegial body made up of hundreds of members. No speaker can personally control every committee.
He handpicked Zaldico as chair of the Appropriations Committee, but every time that Zaldico made moves in the small committees, these moves were not without Martin's direction, order, and control.
So, kasi kung gano'n, kung halimbawa hindi itutuloy na itong mga kaso na to, hindi maliwanag na nagkaroon lamang ng palitan at na-weaponize na naman yung ating judicial process. Parang bigyang pagpapahalaga itong paglipat nitong mga senators na to.
Para pag-usapan ang mga kaganapan sa Senado, makakasama natin ang political analyst na si Professor Froilan Calilong. Prof, magandang gabi. Admar at MJ po inyong makakasama.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, good evening, Admar. Good evening, MJ. Good evening din po sa lahat ng ating mga taga-subaybay. Thank you po. Thank you for having me again.
Opo. Ano po ang masasabi niyo po dito kung babasahin niyo po yung mga komento na didismaya yung ating mga kababayan dahil nga sa walang paninindigan sa ilan nating mga senador?
Oo nga po, lumalabas, mas matindi po talaga yung panggigipit at mas matindi po yung pressure, particularly ng Malacanang. Alam naman natin na yung dalawang senators na sabihin na natin medyo bumaliktad at napasyan nga na umanib na sa bagong mayorya ay may mga nakaumang nakaso. So kung titingnan natin, ito yung binabaglit natin dati na palit ulo, ika nga na okay, sweldo kayo sa kaso or medyo they will go easy on your cases pero you need to jump ships, ika nga, and yun lang nga nangyari. So, it will be interesting actually kung paano to ihulmahin din, particularly ng Office of the Ombudsman. Dahil kung maalala natin, they gave several pronouncements, I think several weeks ago, that yung warrant of arrest at saka yung mga kaso ay isasampa dito kay Senator Joel Villanueva, Senator Jesus Cordero. I think they gave only 2 weeks during that time. So it will be interesting right now kung ito bang mga kaso na to ay itutuloy pa despite and in spite of the fact na umalib na nga sila sa bagong mayorya. So kasi kung gano'n, kung halimbawa hindi itutuloy na itong mga kaso na to, hindi maliwanag na nagkaroon lamang ng palitan at na-weaponize na naman yung ating judicial process. Parang bigyang pagpapahalaga itong paglipat nitong mga senators na to. So at the end of the day, syempre talo na naman ng Mustisya, talo na naman ng taong bayan at nagwagi na naman yung nandoon sa Malacanang. So that's exactly what we're seeing at the moment.
Opo, ano naman po yung nakikita ninyo sa epekto nito sa political career ng mga senador na nakita ng taong bayan na talagang mahina ang paninindigan?
Well, basically, especially if we're looking at the Duterte bloc, the Duterte side, talagang masasabi ko, blacklisted na itong mga to, malabo na sila ay susuportahan ng mga kaalyado ng mga Duterte, primarily because yun nga, kawalan ng paninindigan. Bukod doon kasi yung kawalan nila ng siguro pagtalima doon sa prinsipyo na pinaglalaban nila kapalit ng tinatawag natin na survival, no? So I think it's more of a personal survival, political survival to be exact, no? Na siya naging dahilan kung bakit nila mas pinili, no, na bigyan halaga itong kanilang pagtalikod doon sa kanilang supposedly sabihin na nating principled decision to align themselves with the Cayetano Bloc. Pero nga, mas mabigat yung self-preservation para sa kanila. So, yun yung naging pagpapasya nila. Pero at the end of the day, syempre, kinikilala naman ito ng ating mga kababayan at actually ng mga mas nakararami, no, yung isang pagtalikod doon sa mas mahalagang tungkulin sana na paghahanap ng katotohanan, particularly dito nga sa flood control scandal at sa napakaraming katiwalian na ginagawa nitong pamahalaan ni BBM. Ito sana yung gusto nating resolvehin, no? Kaya nga sila dinala ni Senator Alan Peter Cayetano, hoping and thinking na sila ay hindi babaliktad hanggang sa huli, no? Pero ayun nga ang nangyari, nauna ni si Senator Escudero at pang-13 nga itong si Senator Joel Villanueva. So it's a challenge right now, no? Ang challenge dapat ngayon na sila ay umanib na sa mayorya, na sana ituloy pa rin yung pagsasampa ng kaso. Pero yun nga lang, maaaring kahit isampa yung kaso, maaaring dahil nga sa kaalyado na sila, syempre, the ombudsman will definitely go easy on them. No? Again, sabi ko kanina, talo na naman ang taong bayan dito.
Opo. At nakikita niyo po ba na mabubura na, mababaon na sa limot yung investigasyon sa flood control matapos ito pong muling pagkakaroon ng reorganisasyon sa Senado?
Well, if we're going to look at the words of Senator Alan Peter Cayetano, contrary to popular belief, no, or contrary doon sa gustong paniwalaan ng mga pinklawan, ng mga dilawan at saka ng mga kaalyado at mga loyalista ng ating Pangulo, hindi siya yung tipo na kumapit doon sa kanyang panunungkulan bilang Senate President dahil sa personal na kadahilanan. Unang-una, kaya niya ito ipinaglaban dahil yun ang naayon sa ating saligang batas, no? Na 13 dapat. Kaya nga, nung nakakuha na sila ng 13, he willingly vindicated the position. In short, they just want to put the Senate by the rules. Unlike itong bloke ni Tito Soto, ni Sherwin Gatchalian, at saka mga tulpo, na kaya nila talagang i-bend yung law, no, para sa kanilang personal conveniences, no. So what I'm saying is that at least Senator Alan Peter Cayetano would leave the Senate presidency which is held up high dahil tinupad niya yung kanyang tungkulin at tinupad niya yung kanyang pangako sa BBTO, sa Senate presidency, at sa pakikipaglaban dito once magkaroon sila ng maliwanag na numero. And when it became clear that Senator Joel Villanueva will eventually, and he did, join the Gatchalian bloc, nagbitiw si Senator Peter Cayetano. So, up to the last minute, makikita natin yung prinsipyo at saka yung pagkilala doon sa itinatadhana ng saligang batas. I mean, that is a true mark of a senator, contrary to what other people are saying na kapit ko siya sa posisyon kahit na ayaw sa kanya. So, it's not true, no? The reality is that the reason why he is holding on to that is because that is what is mandated by the Constitution. He is just trying to really abide by what the law says, no? Because napakahirap para sa isang senador na mismo kayo na senador, hindi kayo kakalima dun sa batas at sa sinatadhana ng ating saligang batas. I mean, that's very unforgivable. Pero kayang gawin yun, no, ng mga senators na nakaalyado nga dito kay Senator Win Gatchalian just because they wanted to protect somebody. And that somebody is that big guy in Malacanang.
Opo.
So simple as that.
At parang hindi pa yata natatapos dito, Prof, kasi may post din ito ngayong gabi si Congressman Pulong Duterte na meron na namang warrant daw, no? Do hindi pa kinukumpirma, pero ganito rin yung naging naging pahayag sa nakalipas laban dito kay Senador Bato de la Rosa. Meron siyang information mula sa kanyang source, si Congressman Pulong, na merong warrant against dito kay Senador Bongo mula ICC at dalawa pang ibang opisyal ng PNP.
Well, actually, no, to be honest, ngayon na natapos na itong Senate standoff, I think what is important for them right now is to put their sights on the impeachment. And syempre, yung naunsyami nilang programa, yung naunsyami nilang agenda, which is really to ensure that the Vice President will be impeached, ipagpapatuloy na nila. So definitely, itong mga pag-aresto na to, either kay Senator Bongo or kay Senator Dante Marcoleta, is actually being done within the context of trying to weaken the supporters or the alliance or the coalition behind the Vice President. So in the hopes, no, that they will get 16, no, which is the number needed to actually impeach the Vice President. So I think they're going to do everything they could, no, para talaga puwasan yung mga Duterte allies para nga mas maisulong nila, no, or mas magkaroon ng mas maganda-gandang laban yung kanilang hangarin nga na mapa-impeach itong ating ikalawang Pangulo. No? So I fully understand and I know where they are coming from basically, and ito nagiging maliwanag na nga lahat dahil tapos na itong Senate standoff basically. So balik na naman tayo doon sa panibagong naratibo na naman, which is of course the impeachment.
Opo, Prof, si MJ po ito. Good evening. Ano na pong mangyayari doon sa konsepto ng separation of powers between the three branches of government? Ngayong kinikilala pala ng Malacanang itong pag-upo ni Sir Erwin Gatchalian.
Well, actually, hindi naman po bago, no? Dahil kung titignan natin, even in the past administrations, no, ideal setup is yung Congress, particularly the lower house and the upper house, is sabihin na nating partial to the executive, no? And naging maliwanag naman talaga to, lalong-lalo na sa usapin na to, no? Kaya lang kasi yung sitwasyon ngayon kasi is quite different. Kung ideal setup na sana medyo okay ang executive sa legislative dahil sa kakayahan at sa inaasahan ng taong bayan na mas mapapabilis yung paggagawa ng mga batas, mga legislative measures kung nakalinya yung presidente at saka yung kanyang legislative branch. Yun kung talagang normal na lawmaking lang ang gagawin or legislative agenda usapan. Pero ang pinag-uusapan kasi ngayon kung paano imamaniobra ng Malacanang ang Senado, kasi wala nang problema sa Kongreso, hawak na hawak ngayon kahit pagbalik-balik na rin ng mundo, hindi yun babaliktad kay BBM. Pero itong Senado kasi is quite different kasi syempre national elected at hindi ganun kami, so kinakailangan niyang mag-regain yung control niya dito sa Senate. Just so na yung Senate Blue Ribbon Committee ay hindi ididiin si BBM, si Martin Romualdez, 10 ng kanilang mga kaalyado. So what I'm saying is that yun ang dahilan kung bakit nagmumukhang hindi maganda yung pagkakaroon ng linya or paglinya ng Senado, ng Kongreso sa Chief Executive. Because ang nangyayari kasi, itong paglinya na to ay para sa kadahilanan, hindi sa pagpapabilis ng paggawa ng mga batas, kundi pagtatakip at sa patuloy na paglilihis ng katotohanan para hindi malaman ng taong bayan na ang talagang arkitekto at mastermind nitong flood control at ng iba pang katiwalian sa ating bansa, walang iba kundi ang Pangulo, gayon din naman ang kanyang mga kaalyado.
Opo, Prof, how would you differentiate now yung dalawang teorya na nagbabanggaan, yung political survival o yung isa naman gawin mo ang tama? Paano yan, Prof?
Well, everything right now is hanging on the balance, especially because the impeachment is looming. Alam nyo kasi kung walang impeachment na nakaumang dito kay Vice President, I highly doubt it if Escudero or even Joel Villanueva will join Gatchalian. Pero kasi may nakaumang na impeachment at maaring umaasa sila na dahil gagamitin ng gobyerno lahat ng resources niya para talaga mapa-impeach itong ikalawang pangulo, baka naiisip nila na yung Duterte factor mawala sa equation. Pero we need to understand na kung political capital ang pag-uusapan, BBM is already entering and is already in the lame duck phase of his administration for quite some time now. Papunta na siya talaga sa paghina eventually. Pero sa dami ng pera na meron ang administrasyon na kaya niyang gamitin ito pang mud sa lahat ng institusyon, doon tayo nagkakaproblema. At ito yung nagiging dahilan kung bakit itong naging desisyon ni Senator Joel Villanueva, Senator Jesus Escudero is really not more on political survival. It's more of the personal salvation ng kanilang mga sarili, basically. So medyo magulo at saka masalimuot talaga dahil umiiral talaga yung pera na ninakaw at siyang ginagamit para nga maging maliwanag kung ano ba yung linya ng mga kailangan mong suportahan para masigurado na meron ka talagang aasahan later on. Pero if we are going to see a Duterte victory in 2028, syempre asahan na natin na medyo malabo na talagang makakabalik itong mga Villanueva at saka Escudero na.
Opo, Prof, huli na lang Prof na tanong mula po sa akin. Anong fearless forecast po ninyo doon sa impeachment? And nakuha po ulit nila ang liderato sa Senado. May conviction kaya? May 16 votes kaya? Anong tingin mo Prof sa mga nangyayari ngayon na kaya nalang gawin ang mga dapat gawin para makamit ang kanilang ninanais?
Well, basically, we need to understand at the end of the day, talagang ang marching orders ng Malacanang sa Senado is i-impeach talaga ang ikalawang Pangulo. Yun naman talaga ang grand design, and I think they're going to use everything they have in their power. Lahat ng pera na meron sila na ninakaw din naman nila sa kaban ng bayan para talaga mawala sa landas nila si VP because alam nila kung ano ang mangyayari sa kanila, 10 ng kanilang mga kaalyado once naging Pangulo ang ating dalawang Pangulo ngayon, si VP Sara. Alam nila kung ano yung magiging balik at alam ni BBM na talagang lintik lang ang walang ganti pagka nagkataon. So talagang gagamitin nila lahat. Ang tanong natin ngayon is, number one, medyo mahirap talaga yung 16. Marami kasi talaga yung kakailangan nila. At kung titignan natin yung kasalukuyang composition, kung hindi talaga nila mamadaliin itong, yung pagpapasampa ng mga kaso kaliwat kanan dito sa mga kaalyado ng mga Duterte, talagang mahirapan silang makuha yung numero. So right now, I think it's still it's still hard to meet the 16, given the current composition and the current complexity of Senate. Pero it will depend mainly on how aggressive the government will be in filing charges, in filing cases, and in making sure na maaresto nga itong mga senators na to, na mayroong mga allegedly nakabinbin na kaso. So titignan natin later on kung ano yung magiging galaw, pero sana naman at the end of the day kung papakinggan din naman yung depensa ng ating ikalawang Pangulo, sana makita rin naman nila yung maaring kawalan ng merito ng mga kaso na naisampa at bumoto sila ng naayon doon sa mga datos sa ebidensya at sana magkaroon sila ng tamang pagpapasya nakaayon din naman sa kanilang prinsipyo at hindi sa dikta at kumpas nung nandoon sa Malacanang.
Prof, maraming salamat po sa inyong oras at panahon. Sa ulitin po, ingat po kayo.
Maraming salamat at mabuhay po kayo.
Maraming salamat si Professor Froilan Kililong, sa political analyst na ating nakasama po mga kapart.
How can I be the mastermind? How can I be the mastermind?
How can I be the mastermind? How can I be the mastermind?
This is far from the image we used to see. This is an image that doesn't jive with the real Martin Romualdez, who is addicted to power.
The House is not one person. It is a collegial body made up of hundreds of members. No speaker can personally control every committee.
He handpicked Zaldico as chair of the Appropriations Committee, but every time that Zaldico made moves in the small committees, these moves were not without Martin's direction, order, and control.
I was not a part of the BICAM and the small committee budget deliberations. Records would show that I did not participate in those meetings.
Siyempre, wise siya, so that if there's any problem later, Zaldico will be the sangkalan.
My district has 0 gross and 0 substandard flood control projects. 0. And that is verifiable.
Of course, he's not stupid. He's very, very smart.
Congress does not build flood control projects. Congress does not conduct procurement. The real corruption happens at the level of execution of the General Appropriations Act.
This scheme of getting kickbacks from ghost flood control projects and substandard projects were designed by Martin Romualdez as the mastermind from the start when they were preparing the budget in the House of Representatives. Not after, during the implementation, but when they were preparing or before they even prepared the budget. Even before the NEP was sent to the House of Representatives. Nandiyan na rin yung patong ng 30% na kickback ng mga congressman.
I know many things about this current administration and past administrations as well. I will not go quietly and I will not go alone. I will not be the fall guy for other people's corruption.
And I think this is what irked Ombudsman Boying Rimulya some more. I mean, all the more, he is going to throw the books at him. He says, I will not go alone.
Martin Romualdez.
Martin Romualdez.
Martin Romualdez.
Martin Romualdez.
Speaker Romualdez.
Speaker Romualdez.
Martin Romualdez.
I'm not going to be a scapegoat. I will take you with me. Yan ang ibig niya sabihin.
Meet attorney Rowena Bing Guanzon, a top 10 graduate of UP College of Law, Harvard trained, one of the most fearless voices this country has ever known. But brilliance alone doesn't make a fighter. She was forged at the right hand of a legend, Chief of Staff to the late great Senator Miriam Defensor Santiago, the Iron Lady of Asia. She didn't just learn from her, she inherited the torch, and she lit it early. At just 28, fresh out of the People Power Revolution, she became one of the youngest mayors in Philippine history. In a city ruled by warlords, she governed with a law degree in one hand and a firearm on her hip. She refused to be intimidated, and she has never backed down since. She would go on to serve as commissioner in 2 constitutional commissions, audit, then elections. So fierce, so uncompromising, the nation gave her a name, the Comelec version of Miriam Santiago. When powerful men pressured the bench, she didn't whisper. She exposed them. She is also a scholar the world takes seriously. Over 10 legal books on violence against women, archived in the libraries of Harvard, Stanford, and the United States Library of Congress. But ask her what she's proudest of, and it won't be the titles. It's the women she defends for free against the men who hurt them. It's the elderly gay men, forgotten in their twilight years, whom she quietly cares for. The powerful know her as a threat, the forgotten know her as a shield. And now, the region has taken notice. On the same stage where her fellow PGMN voice, CJ Hero, was honored before her, she takes her place among the honorees of the Asian Pillars Awards. So why is she loved? It's simple. She cannot be bought. She will not be filtered. Her loyalty belongs to one thing, the Constitution. Now she sets her sights on her boldest fight yet, a seat in the Senate. No dynasty, no machine. Just a record no one can touch. And every step of the way, you'll see it here first. This is attorney Rowena Guanzon. Fiercely honest, unapologetically brave, and uncompromisingly on your side, proudly, PGMN.
Oh, how the mighty has fallen. Who is Martin Romualdez? What is he? If we look back at his background, how did he become to be so powerful under the presidency of his first cousin, Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. Let's go back to his background. He was educated in Cornell, where he got a certificate, probably the equivalent of an undergrad, and entered the UP College of Law and graduated from the College of Law in 1993. Let's not forget that in 1986, his father, Benjamin Cocoy Romualdez, who was the favorite brother of Imelda Romualdez Marcos, had to flee the country for fear of reprisal from a new government of President Cory Aquino after the People Power movement. So in 1993, he graduated from the UP College of Law, and little is known whether he practiced law or not, and little is known what businesses he had. But since 1986, the Presidential Commission on Good Government sequestered several of the properties of his father, Benjamin Cocoy Romualdez. Unfortunately, many of these cases were dismissed later or were settled, such that when they returned to the Philippines, Cocoy Romualdez was able to reacquire the properties that were sequestered. Little is known also whether Martin Romualdez inherited those companies. But for himself, he must have been worth hundreds of millions of pesos and owns Prime Media. He also has interest in Benguet Mining. His brother, Jose Paras, is the president of Golden Pheasant, which is a realty company, but quite obviously connected to him or as his alter ego, because Paras on his own, with only 18 million in assets, could not afford to purchase this property later in question, which is the house in Tamarind Street in Forbes that's used to be owned by Magsaysay Ho. This is the same house, later we will discuss, that where Saudi Co stated that as a contractor, he was instructed to renovate that house. And he was identified by the household helpers of the occupant at the time. Martin Romualdez first became congressman in 2017 when he was elected representative of his district in Leyte. And he served 3 terms or 9 years.
Darating ang araw kung saan ang ating mga pangarap magiging katotohanan. Basta may malasakit, lahat kayang makamit.
In 2015, he ran for senator.
Nagkakalat po ako, kaya pinay ko na itong COC para sa senador. At gusto ko magsilbi, magpakita din ng malakasan, hindi lang po sa Tacloban, hindi lang sa Leyte, hindi lang sa Region 8, pero sa buong Pilipinas.
And was seen to be supporting Rodrigo Duterte in 2016. At the time when he ran for senator, his wife Yeda Romualdez took over his seat as district representative. He lost for senator, cooled his heels, and then returned to Congress as the district representative, while his wife was representative of their conjugal party list called Tingog. Now, Martin Romualdez was just another rich man, just another Romualdez, until Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos won the presidency and took power. Now, remember, when Bongbong ran for vice president against Leni Robredo, he lost by more than 200,000 votes. And so for 3 years, we haven't heard whatever happened to him. But we also did not hear what happened to Martin Romualdez. Martin Romualdez became Speaker of the House when BBM became president. The connection is not a surprise because he's first cousin. If you look at the series of events and how Martin Romualdez controlled the House and controlled the congressmen, he was actually building an empire of his own, separate from his first cousin. He was obviously designing his own house, where his trusted lieutenants will be the sitting congressmen and their heirs, so that in 2028, he would be the likely candidate of the administration for president. And that's the motivation, and that's the goal of Martin Romualdez, and the reason why he was very active in making sure that the budget for the Ayuda, the AX, the Tupad, was in billions of pesos during his term and controlled by his congressmen to make sure that the voters would be beholden to him and their congressmen.
Kaya may AX dahil ni Speaker. Kaya may akap dahil ni Speaker. Kaya may tupad dahil ni Speaker. Kaya may mga barangay road dahil ni Speaker. Kaya may patubig dahil ni Speaker. At kaya may groundbreaking ngayon dahil ni Speaker.
But after 2025, the start of the fall of Martin Romualdez was unexpected. The flood control, ghost projects were discovered. Substandard projects were discovered. Whether we give President Marcos credit or not, he did assign Secretary Vince Dizon to investigate, and as a result, although it took him quite a while, referred or endorsed his facts or report to the Ombudsman. And before this happened, the pressure on the administration was so strong that Martin Romualdez had to resign as Speaker of the House.
Ang ating mga kababayan ay naghahangad ng linaw at higit sa lahat ng tiwala. Tungkulin natin ito'y maibalik. The longer I stay, the heavier that burden grows on me, on this House, and on the President I've always sought to support. And so, after deep reflection and prayer, I have made a decision today with a full heart and a clear conscience. I tender my resignation as Speaker of the House of Representatives.
When he was Speaker of the House, he handpicked Zaldico, a contractor who is the representative of Ako Bicol party list for many years. He handpicked Zaldico as chair of the Appropriations Committee, and by so doing, controlled the many party list representatives in the House, aside from the district representatives. And Zaldico, being a trusted lieutenant of Martin Romualdez, eventually got the job done. In fact, he was so successful that notwithstanding a deficit, the unprogrammed funds in 2023 to 2024 was around 247 billion. And from that amount, they released more than 100 billion in infrastructure, specifically flood control projects, which eventually were discovered to be ghost projects or non-existent or substandard. And these funds became the source of kickbacks, which Zaldico later disclosed how he, upon the instruction of Martin Romualdez, padded the budget, made sure that the insertions and other instructions were done in the small committee or bicameral conference, and made sure that the kickbacks were delivered by him personally. Of course, using his bodyguards, the 18 former Marines who gave notarized statements that they performed several deliveries in suitcases. Maraming maleta na hinatid nila sa bahay ni Martin Romualdez sa McKinley Street, at lahat ng ito nangyari nung hindi na si Martin Romualdez ang speaker. He was already out of power when the 18 Marines came out. But there was one Marine who first came out after Zaldico fled the country, and his name was Gutesa.
Tuwing may duty detail ako sa basura, pumupunta kami sa 28 Ladybug Corner, Dragonfly, Valle Verde 6, Pasig City. Tagabuhat lang ako ng malita ng basura. Ang ibig sabihin ng basura ay malita na may lamang pera.
Now, Gutesa is very important because it was his statement in the Blue Ribbon Committee that the Ombudsman used in the complaint for plunder, graft, indirect bribery, and money laundering against Martin Romualdez. Now, remember that Ombudsman Boying Rimulya and Martin Romualdez are fraternity brothers in Upsilon Sigma Phi. And so, at first, I said, I doubt it very much because of their ties of loyalty. But something must have happened. And that something will probably reveal itself to us in the next few weeks. Something must have happened that Ombudsman Rimulya all of a sudden announced that a plunder case will be filed against Martin Romualdez in the coming weeks. Martin, who has long been invisible until he showed up in the House of Representatives to receive the ovation of his colleagues in the majority, and was in fact in and out, but often absent in the House of Representatives, until he came out in a videotape statement a few days ago. And his statement is shocking to those who thought Remulla would never file a plunder charge against Martin Romualdez, his fraternity brother. Then let's listen to Martin's videotape statement where he says, I'm not going to be a scapegoat. He says, I will not go alone. And he says, I'm not the mastermind. I'm not the mastermind. All of these projects were executed by the executive department.
I did not hide, I did not run. I did not evade scrutiny. I faced it head on within the proper channel because I know there is no evidence that proves I committed plunder, conspiracy to commit plunder, or any similar offense that the Ombudsman may be contemplating against me. And because I have nothing to hide, I am today authorizing the immediate public release of the affidavit I submitted, together with all supporting information so that the Filipino people can judge for themselves who has been transparent and who is simply being politically targeted. Now let us address the most absurd accusation of all, that I am supposedly the mastermind of this corruption scheme. How can I be the mastermind? I was the former Speaker of the House of Representatives, but the House of Representatives is only one part of the branch of government, the legislature. I want to make this simple and clear. The national budget does not depend on just one person. The budget does not begin in the House. It begins in the executive. The agencies and departments prepare their proposals. The executive consolidates them into the National Expenditure Program, and that program is then submitted to Congress. From there, the House deliberates, but the House is not one person, and it is certainly not the Speaker alone. It is a collegial body made up of hundreds of members, multiple committees, vice chairs, and institutional processes. In fact, there are around 85 committees, each with its own jurisdiction, leadership, and members. No speaker can personally control every committee, much less direct the actions of other branches or government agencies.
Martin Romualdez is telling us that he's just the speaker. And no speaker can actually control all these committees. But this is far from the image we used to see and from what congressmen say or said about him. This is an image that doesn't jive with the real Martin Romualdez, who is addicted to power and control. So if he says, I'm just the speaker, I did not create that budget just by myself. It went through several committees, he said. And as the speaker, there is no way I could have controlled all of these congressmen, which is totally not true. Because if you remember the first impeachment complaint against Vice President Sara, it could not have happened so if Martin Romualdez did not have that kind of control and grip over his congressmen and congresswomen. Remember that the speaker has the power to release or to hold all these project funds of the congressman, district, or party list. He is so powerful because he's not only speaker, he's the first cousin of the president. So the image that he's trying to tell us that, I'm just a speaker. I cannot possibly be responsible for this alone. And this is when you will see na gagawin niyang sangkalan si Saldico. Which is why Saldico had to resign. Remember? Saldico had to resign from the Appropriations Committee before Martin Romualdez resigned as Speaker.
And in the Appropriations Committee itself, there are already more than 100 members, with many vice chairs, and Representative Toby Tiangco, who has been very vocal and upfront on this issue over the past months, was himself a vice chair of the Appropriations Committee in the previous Congress. So I have to ask, if there were real concerns about irregularities in the budget process, why were these not formally raised during the deliberations, or even during the plenary? The budget deliberation does not stop in the House. The Senate also conducts its own deliberations, reviews its own version, and plays its own role in shaping the final budget, and it is not a bystander. It is an active constitutional participant in this process. After that, the House and the Senate reconcile their versions in the bicameral conference committee. Only then is the final bill transmitted to the President for approval or veto. So let us be honest about what becomes law. The national budget is not the act of one person or one chamber. It is a product of a constitutional chain involving the executive, the House, and the Senate. This is something I want the public to understand. The budget process is collective, multi-layered, and shared. Accountability must apply to everyone involved, not selectively assigned after the fact.
Martin is saying that he is not the mastermind. And if he's going to be prosecuted for it, all who are involved should be prosecuted. And then he's telling us that there are so many chairs of committees in the House. And they all worked on that budget that was approved by the House and forwarded to the small committee in the Senate and the bicameral conference. But again, he misleads us because this is not the Martin Romualdez that people see in public, in the House, in the way the congressmen kowtow to him. They practically look at him as a god, hopefully with a small letter G. So he portrays himself as a minor player in the preparation of the budget. In fact, Martin says, I was not present in the small committee. True, he was not present because he sent Zaldico there. Siyempre, why siya? So that if there's any, problem later, Zaldico will be the sangkalan. That every time that Zaldico made moves in the small committees, these moves were not without Martin's direction, order, and control. Because as Speaker of the House, he had supervision and control over all the committees, and including his representatives in the small committee, such as Zaldico as chair of the Appropriations Committee. And then he says, I'm not the mastermind. How could I have conspired? How can there be conspiracy? He says, when my participation is just in the passing of that appropriation budget. And after that, it went to the Senate. And after it passed, it is up to the executive, the DPWH, to implement it. I have nothing to do with the implementation. So how could I have conspired?
And certainly not when it becomes politically useful. If corruption were to occur in a magnitude made known to us over the past months, then it's clear that the real corruption does not happen at the level of the general legislative approval alone. It happens at the level of execution of the General Appropriations Act. It happens when projects are implemented. It happens where projects are actually implemented, where procurement is undertaken, where monetary disbursements are actually made. And it happens when substandard projects are passed off as legitimate or when ghost projects are made to appear real. That is why command responsibility is far more logically relevant in the executive branch, where there is actually supervision, operational control, and implementation on the ground, than in the collegial legislative body where constitutional role is deliberation and appropriation. Congress does not build flood control projects. Congress does not conduct procurement. Congress does not inspect whether a project was actually completed. Congress does not certify whether the work done was substandard or not. So if the allegation is that there was a systemic corruption in flood control implementation, then the public should ask the obvious question: where does implementation actually happen? Definitely not in the session hall of the House of Representatives. Here's the simplest way to test that theory that I am the mastermind of this scheme. If I were truly involved in a fraudulent scheme of this nature, then the first place one would expect to see that pattern would be in my own district, in the projects most easily associated with me. You would have seen it in Tacloban, but I say this with absolute certainty. You won't see it in my district. My district has 0 ghost and 0 substandard flood control projects.
Of course, his district has 0 ghost flood control and substandard projects. He's not stupid. He's very, very smart.
Ang pera ng bayan ay hindi para sa sarili, pakinabang ng ilan. Tungkulin natin bilang mga kinatawan na tiyakin ng bawat piso ay para sa pag-unlad at kapakanan ng ating kababayan.
What Zaldico was saying is that this scheme of getting kickbacks from ghost flood control projects and substandard projects were designed by Martin Romualdez as the mastermind from the start when they were preparing the budget in the House of Representatives. Not after, during the implementation, but when they were preparing or before they even prepared the budget. Now remember, was it Congressman Leandro Leviste who came out and said, parang negosyo dyan sa loob. May mga congressman na nagbibenta dyan Nagbo-broker ng kanilang mga project funds. Tapos sila na lang kukuha ng kickback.
Ang mga politiko sa Batangas ay maaaring tumistigo at suportado sila ni Congressman Garjola, kompleto ang makinarya para gawing negosyo ang Batangas. Kaya baka hindi lang 1 bilyon ang nagastos na ni Garjola para sa mga rekto.
May mga project funds sa infrastructure, especially flood control, na bago pa napasok sa National Expenditure Program at pinadala sa House of Representatives, ay nakapasok na ang 30% na kickback. May contractor na. Kaya kita mo, lahat ng state witnesses nila, lahat taga DPWH. Kasi nga naman, indispensable nga naman ang DPWH officials doon. At syempre, rumakit din sila. Diba? Ang lagay, congressman lang ba ang kickback? Naraket din sila. Kaya natira na lang sa mga contractors 30% to spend for the project. So, obviously, mag-ghost talaga or magsa-substandard talaga yung projects. Dahil sa lahat na lang, kung kumuha na ng parte nila. And this scheme was done even before the NEP was sent to the House of Representatives. Doon pa lang sa DPWH. Hindi ba, Secretary Dizon discovered that?
Magkakaroon din po tayo ng sweeping reforms sa project management at project monitoring. Ito pong mga issue sa TUPA, ito pong mga issue sa paano ba nagsisimula ang pagpaplano ng proyekto at paano po ito napupunta sa budget at paano po ito ini-implement. Marami pong nagtatanong, meron po bang master plan para sa flood control ang DPWH? Unfortunately, mukha po ang sagot po doon ay wala. Kailangan po natin magkaroon nun.
Pero obvious, di ba, na pinapatungan bago pa isabit ang budget. Nandyan na yung patong ng contractors. Nandyan na rin yung patong ng 30% na kickback ng mga congressman. And that is what Zaldico said, na all of this, nandyan na yan. Ang role ko, ako ang kapitan, pero hindi ako mastermind, sabi niya. Ako yung nagkukumpas, pero si Martin ang may control. Yan ang sinasabi ni Zaldico. At yung mga kickback, galing sa contractor, dadaan sa DPWH, ahatid sa kay Zaldico. In fact, sinabi ng mga Marines na doon inahatid sa bahay ni Zaldico yung maleta-maleta.
Umigit kumulang 3 bisis ako mismo ang nag-deliver ng basura sa bahay ni Congressman Zaldico, sa Horizon Resident at sa mga bahay ni Speaker Romualdez sa 42 Market Street, Taguig.
From there, hinahatid naman ngayon ng mga bodyguards ni Zaldico o siya mismo sa bahay ni Martin Romualdez. Napakalaking kickbackan. Hundreds of billions. Because the estimated gross flood control projects funds was at 1.9 trillion. Napakalaking kickbackan, napakaraming maleta na hindi na magkasya sa bahay ni Martin Romualdez sa McKinley, sa Forbes. That's when Zaldico said, Martin gave him an order na maghanap siya ng bahay na bibilhin. Gagawing, in the words of Zaldico, bagsakan ng basura. Basura, garbage, referring to all this kickback money.
Ang ibig sabihin ng basura ay malita na may lamang pera.
And so that's why the property of Magsaysay Ho is mentioned here by the Ombudsman in the complaint for plunder and violation of the Anti-Money Laundering Act. Because yun ang bahay na pinili nila na magiging tambakan. At ang bumili ay ang kumpanyang under the control or shadow control of Martin Romualdez na ang presidente ay ang kanyang close na brad na si Jose Paras na binili nila at an estimated amount of 1.66 billion pesos. Binili ng kumpanya ni Paras yung Golden Pheasant. Ang sinasabi ng ombudsman sa complaint, money laundering talaga. Kasi nakalagay na ang perang gagabitin to buy that property at 1.66 billion ay manggagaling sa advances ng stockholders. Pero si Paras, sinasabi ng ombudsman, hindi Hindi pwedeng sa kanya personal manggaling yung pera kasi yung assets ni Paras ay mga 12 or 18 million lamang. 1.66 billion yung bahay na yun sa Tamarind Street. Yun ang sinasabi ni Chaldico, nagtutugmaan na ngayon. At sinabi ng mga former Marines na security ni Saldico, yung lumabas na 18, na yun na nga, may hinahatid din silang mga maleta doon sa Tamarind Street na bahay. Yun yung tambakan ng basura. Kaya kung iisipin ng taong bayan, bakit nga naman ba hindi tayo magagalit? Grabe. 1.66 billion pesos na bahay, ginawa lang nilang tambakan ng mga kickback nila. Can you imagine kung ilang bata na napaka-college natin dyan sa perang yan? Ilang classrooms na? Ilang pasyente na may butas ang puso dyan sa Philippine Heart Center ang napaoperahan? Ilang hospital na sana ang napaganda, napaayos sa perang yan at 1.66 billion? Kaya naman po, galit na galit ang taong bayan. Galit na galit kay Martin Romualdez. Ngayon, dinideflect ni Martin ang galit na yan kasi nagtago muna siya. Nagtago muna siya kasi siguro he was preparing to leave the country at siyempre nag-ayos-ayos siya ng kanyang mga kayamanan. Diba? And true enough, sinabi niya na kailangan daw niya ng angioplasty sa Singapore. And so he asked permission. But the ombudsman blocked his travel. Hindi siya binigyan ng permiso to leave the country. Ang dami namang mga batikan dito, mga heart surgeon, gagaling na mga doktor dito. Bakit ka pa pupunta ng Singapore, Martin? At napaka-correct timing ka naman na talagang aalis ka nung alam mo na talagang lalabas na ang plunder case mo dahil in-announce na ni Ombudsman Boying Rimulya at i-freeze na yung assets mo. In fact, frozen nga ang mga assets niya ngayon. Di po ba? Kasi nga may Anti-Money Laundering Act na charge eh. Diba? Frozen yung McKinley niya na bahay. May mga insurance siya. May mga 25 na bank accounts na frozen. But if you know Martin Romualdez, he's very smart. I'm sure na hindi naman yun lahat ang assets niya. Hindi po ba? And some people are actually asking if Yeda Romualdez is still in the country. But she's another story. Let's continue.
0. And that is verifiable. To prove this point, I'm authorizing my staff to share and release to the public the list of all the projects in my district that the authorities may deem attributable to me. Let the public scrutinize and verify for themselves. As I already mentioned, corruption of this scale is not a one-man operation. It requires two things: budget decisions and implementation on the ground. With respect to how the budget was deliberated in Congress, let me say this categorically. I was not a part of the BICAM and the small committee budget deliberations. Yes, I was updated on the general outcomes of the deliberations, but I had no visibility with regard to the specific details of the discussions, including particular amendments or insertions approved during these closed-door deliberations. Records would show that I did not participate in those meetings and I was not privy to what exactly transpired during the deliberations. However, two people were instrumental in making those budget decisions: Chis Escudero and Zaldico. And once the budget becomes law, the work of implementing flood control projects, or any project for that matter, is solely within the purview of the executive, including the DPWH, certainly not by legislators. I understand the anger of the public. The Filipino people have every right to be angry because stolen public funds are taxes derived from hard-earned money. I'm not asking the public to look away. I'm asking everyone to look where the evidence points, not where it is politically convenient or politically motivated. So I ask the Ombudsman and the public these questions. Who has been named in sworn testimonies and affidavits? Whose name actually appeared in credible accounts made under oath? If there are sworn accounts pointing to other personalities across the chain, whether in budget deliberations or in implementation, then those leads must be pursued with the same seriousness and the same urgency. Accountability cannot be selective. For months, I chose silence because I believe in our legal system and in the rule of law. But my silence is now being exploited with politically engineered and fabricated narratives. What's even more disturbing, and this is something that cannot be ignored, is that there are emerging indications that certain sectors are attempting to weaponize individuals, including Zaldico, to construct a narrative that serves their own interests. So when the legal processes is being used against me as a political demolition job, then I will have no choice but to defend myself.
Martin Romualdez attempts to make us believe that his participation in this anomalous budget where there are hundreds of billions in unprogrammed funds that were used for ghost flood control projects and substandard projects was limited to his being a speaker. He was not even in the small committee. And then, dinidiin niya si Chis Escudero. Sabi niya, si Chis Escudero ang may kagagawan nun, si Zaldico. Wala nga ako dun. But let us not forget, that was a very powerful speaker. Ang scope of power ni Martin Romualdez ay hindi lamang sa district niya, kundi sa buong House of Representatives na kahit na sabihin mo chair pa yan ng mga iba't ibang committee are still under his supervision and control. Sinasabi niya na, ito lang yung participation ko. But Martin, as a good lawyer, and probably practiced criminal law, should know that the charge of the ombudsman here is conspiracy. And in conspiracy, the act of one is the act of all. And Zaldico is saying that he was instructed by Martin to do this and do it this way.
Tinawagan ako ni dating Speaker Martin Romualdez at sinabihan, stay out of the country. You will be well taken care of as instructed by the President.
Not only to achieve this goal, but how to go about it. In fact, was so smart that he did not even appear in the small committee, which is normal. I mean, usually the speaker doesn't really go to the small committee. That's why, dinidiin niya na si Chis Escudero lang at si Zaldico ang gumawa niyan. But, don't forget, mga kababayan ko, na conspiracy ito. The act of one is the act of all. At ang simula ng conspiracy na ito ay hindi naman dun lang sa pag-implement na ng DPWH kung saan nag-rig na sila ng mga bidding-bidding nila. O hindi sa paggawa mismo ng budget niya yan sa Committee on Appropriations under the supervision and control of Martin Romualdez at by Zaldico. Pinili niya yan si Zaldico. Pinili niya yan for his own reasons dahil loyal niya lieutenant at marunong mambraso sa mga congressman at sa DPWH. Dahil dating ang kontraktor, si Zaldico, marunong na siya dyan sa mga kickbackan na yan bago pa siya naging congressman. Itong ombudsman finally filed charges against Martin Romualdez. Pero sabi ni Martin, nilalabas daw niya yung kanyang mga papeles, ganyan. Well, wala naman tayo nakikita sa internet. But for sure, the ombudsman already released the complaint charging Romualdez with plunder kasi over 50 million ang mga kickback. Kasi nag-receive siya eh. Hindi pwedeng, wala naman ako dun sa bidding. Hindi ko naman alam kung sino yung mga contractor na yun nga na nanalo eh. Ang point sa plunder, na saan siya nag-participate, is from the beginning, alam niya na magkaka-kickback siya dun sa ghost flood control projects at substandard projects na yun. And he received. And that's what Saldi said, he delivered. And Martin Romualdez received in his house. How can you even deny na hindi mo na-receive yan, Martin? Eh, bahay mo yun eh. Eh, nadidescribe pa nga ng mga bodyguard ni Zaldico kung ano itsura ng bahay. Yun namang bahay sa Tamarin na bagsakan ng mga kickback. Yung mga katulong ay may statement na dumating si Zaldico at sabi ni Zaldico, ay kailangan na kayong umalis, yung occupant. Kasi ako ang contractor dito eh, i-renovate ko pa ito.
Pareho kayo na ina-identify nyo na siya mismo yung kaharap ninyo na sinasabing ang may-ari ng bahay, si Speaker Romualdez, at kailangang umalis na kayo?
Tama po yan. Tama po, sir.
Not Zaldico, but Diskaya. Si Diskaya ang na-identify ng mga helpers. And hindi ba si Diskaya, yung mag-asawa, sinabi nga nila na nag-deliver sila ng mga kickback money at sinasabi ng mga DPWH na nag-receive na para yun sa taas. Ang pagkaintindi nila, para sa taas, para kay Martin Romualdez at sa mga DPWH na mga opisyales. Basahin natin ang conspiracy na allegation sa complaint of the Ombudsman in paragraph 112. The acts established by the evidence constitute both a combination and a series of predicate criminal acts under Republic Act number 7080. Specifically, Section 1, subsection D, subsection 2, which penalizes the receipt of any commission, gift, share, percentage, kickback, or any other form of pecuniary benefit in connection with any government contract or project, and B, Section 1, subsection D, subsection 6, which penalizes the taking of undue advantage of official position, authority, relationship, connection, or influence to enrich oneself. Ko himself admitted that a monthly collection quota of approximately 2 billion was imposed on him in relation to these quote-unquote commitments. Grabe, no? May quota si Saldico ng monthly na 2 billion na kickback. Ganyan sila katindi. In particular, paragraph 112.4, Co stated that from 2022 to 2025, the aggregate amount of such collections reached approximately 55 to 56 billion pesos. 56 billion pesos. He further admitted that these funds were delivered to properties associated with Romualdez, particularly 42 McKinley, and 42 McKinley is listed under the name of both Martin and Yeda Romualdez according to tax declarations. Let's go back to Martin.
And I will defend myself fully. I will not allow myself to be turned into the scapegoat so that others who are actually accountable can walk away clean.
The scapegoat strikes back. This is when he now threatens to spill the beans on this administration, and I think this is what irked Ombudsman Boying Rimulya some more. I mean, all the more, he is going to throw the books at him.
If this is a political play to push me out and close the story, tarnishing my name and my reputation, then I'm telling everyone now, I will not go quietly and I will not go alone. I will not be the fall guy for other people's corruption. I have been in public life long enough. I have seen enough. I have heard enough. I know many things about this current administration and past administrations as well.
Martin is saying, marami akong alam. Aba, laglagan na talagang tunay ito. Sinasabi niya, I'm not going to be the fall guy. Yan. I'm not going to be the scapegoat. Sabi niya. I will not go alone. Kung tatamaan ako, lalaban ako. Sabi niya, I will fight. Sabi niya. At I will not go alone. Ibig niya sabihin, I will take you with me. Yan. Yan ang ibig niya sabihin. At mukhang nangangayayat na nga si Martin Romualdez. Saan kaya niya vinidyo ito? Yan ang mga tanong pa ng ibang tao eh. Sure ba tayo na hindi yan nakalabas? Kasi videotaped statement bago lumabas yung complaint ng ombudsman.
And I say this carefully. If this matter is to be handled as a legal issue, then let it be handled legally, soberly, and according to evidence. But if certain people insist on waging this in the court of public opinion, then I will have no choice but to defend myself publicly as well. To the Ombudsman, I say this with full respect. If your office truly believes in justice, then follow the sworn statements, follow the records, and follow the evidence all the way. Do not stop where it is politically convenient. Do not settle for the easiest headline. Do not confuse public pressure with prosecutorial duty. What I ask of the office of the Ombudsman is simple. Follow the rule of law and due process. This is a serious matter, and it should be handled with seriousness, not with haste, theatrics, or shortcuts. I'm ready and willing to respond to every allegation in the proper forum, through the proper pleadings, motions, and submissions that the law allows. And to those who think they can throw me under the bus to save themselves, this is what I have to say to you. I am ready to defend my name. My silence should not be mistaken for weakness, ignorance, or fear. I know enough to defend myself, And if I am forced to do so in public, I will. Maraming salamat po.
Martin Romualdez is now saying that this is a political persecution and that he should be afforded due process. I can hear somebody saying, look who's talking. Look who's talking about due process. Look who's talking about rule of law. Look who's talking about political persecution and convenience. This is a fight where Martin Romualdez is not sure he's going to win. After all, he is going to be the accused here. The ombudsman has the upper hand. And we have an ombudsman who is not only a constitutional officer, but who has the support of the appointing power and whose brother may likely be the presidential candidate in 2028. So here we see the fall of Martin Romualdez in a span of what? He quit in September 2025 and now it's 2026. In less than a year, Martin Romualdez finds himself not only in a defensive position, but anticipating that all the might and all the power of the government through the ombudsman is going to rain on him. And with plunder being a non-bailable offense, Martin Romualdez must be really, really scared now. Well, how's that for a change? Let's see what happens next. When the case is investigated, he is given due process. He will answer, file his counter affidavits, and I have no doubt that the ombudsman will indict him for plunder, graft, indirect bribery, in violation of the Anti-Money Laundering Act. And when that happens and Martin Romualdez goes to jail, there's no more doubt that he has to kiss his presidential ambitions goodbye. Attorney Rowena Guanzon po, ang inyong lingkod.